In 1968, during a lecture series in San Francisco, Alan Watts met a woman who'd been exiled by her family for refusing to play along with what he called the great pretending game. Her relatives called her disruptive, ungrateful, the troublemaker. But Watts told her something that shifted her entire perspective. You're not the problem. You're the one who woke up from the dream while everyone else insists on staying asleep. Every family has one member who sees through the illusion, who can't pretend the game is real. That person becomes the outcast, not because they're broken, but because they're awake. And families need the awakened one to survive, even when they're trying to silence them. If you've been labeled the difficult one, the oversensitive soul, the rebel who won't just go along with things, you're not broken. You're the awakened one. And Watts discovered that awakened ones play the most vital role in the family's cosmic drama through 5 essential realizations. But most awakened ones never learn to understand their role in the great play of existence, so they suffer the burden of awareness without accessing the liberation it offers. This woman's transformation through Watts' teachings reveals exactly how the awakened one functions as the family's unwitting guru, and why understanding these 5 realizations changes everything. The woman who attended Watts' lecture series in 1968, we'll call her Anna, had been cast out by her family 6 months earlier. At a family gathering, she'd simply stated what everyone could see. Father's been drinking heavily again. The room froze. Then her mother stood up, trembling with rage. How dare you bring shame to this family, leave. Now, Anna was 28, had never lived apart from her family. That night, she was banished. Her siblings turned their backs. She became the cautionary tale whispered at family gatherings. Look what happens when you refuse to play the game. She approached Watts after his lecture, confused and hurt. I only spoke what was obvious. Everyone knows father drinks. Why am I being punished for acknowledging reality? Watts smiled with that knowing look. My dear, you're not being punished for speaking truth. You're being punished for refusing to participate in the collective hallucination. You see, every family is putting on a theatrical performance, a drama where everyone has agreed to their roles. Your father plays the functional patriarch while being an alcoholic. Your mother plays the supportive wife while enabling. Your siblings play the dutiful children while ignoring the obvious. And you were supposed to play along, but you couldn't, because you see it's all a game. That makes you the most dangerous person in the whole production. You're the one who might wake the others up. The first realization, the awakening to the game. This is the first of 5 realizations about how awakened ones function in family systems. The awakened one isn't the sick member. They're the one who sees through the illusion that everyone else desperately maintains. Every family operates on 2 levels of reality. There's the surface performance, the roles everyone plays for the outside world, and there's the underlying truth that everyone knows but agrees to ignore. Watts called this the conspiracy of mutual deception. The family creates an elaborate dance, a choreographed performance where everyone knows their steps. Don't mention the drinking. Don't acknowledge the affairs. Maintain the facade at all costs. The awakened one is born with or develops what Watts would call an inability to successfully hypnotize themselves. They can't make themselves believe the performance is real. Their consciousness registers the gap between what's being performed and what actually is. They feel the dissonance like a constant vibration, an uncomfortable frequency that others have learned to tune out. Research on highly sensitive people confirms what Watts intuited. Approximately 20% of the population has heightened awareness and deeper processing. In healthy families, this sensitivity enriches the family's experience. In families playing elaborate deception games, it makes the child dangerous because they see through the performance that holds the family identity together. Anna described it to Watts. I always felt this strange disconnect, like we were all actors who'd forgotten we were acting. Mother would smile while seething with resentment, father would give advice while stumbling drunk, and everyone would nod along like this was normal. I thought I was going insane. Watts responded, you weren't going insane. You were going sane in an insane situation. You were seeing clearly while everyone else had agreed to blur their vision. Your consciousness was functioning correctly. Theirs had adapted to function in delusion. The Eastern traditions call this Maya, the illusion we mistake for reality. Your family created their own localized Maya, and you couldn't enter it. The awakened one doesn't choose to see through the illusion. It's not rebellion or willfulness. It's simply consciousness that won't dim itself, awareness that won't contract to fit the family's narrow reality. When Anna finally spoke at that family dinner, it wasn't defiance, it was exhaustion from pretending she couldn't see what she saw. But the moment she acknowledged reality, she broke the spell. And in families, breaking the spell is the ultimate transgression. Someone must see through the illusion for the family to eventually evolve. The awakened one does this automatically, involuntarily. They're the family's reality check, even when the family violently rejects that checking. Watts explained, "You're not the problem. You're the mirror reflecting back their performance." And the family wants to shatter the mirror because they don't want to see they're performing. Without the awakened one, the family's performance continues unchallenged, passed to the next generation like a script no one remembers writing. The awakened one disrupts this transmission, not by choice but by their very nature. They cannot successfully pretend. If your family calls you too sensitive or dramatic, comment below, "I see through the game," because recognizing you're awake is just the beginning. The second realization reveals why the family must cast you as the villain to keep their performance intact. The second realization, becoming the designated problem. 3 months after meeting Watts, Anna asked the question that haunted her sleepless nights. Why do they hate me so much? I'm their daughter, their sister. Why do they treat me like I'm the enemy? She'd been replaying the exile constantly, her mother's contorted face, her siblings' cold silence, the extended family's whispered judgments. All of it aimed at her, like she'd committed an unforgivable sin. I spoke one simple truth everyone already knew, and they made me into a monster. Watts leaned forward. They don't hate you. They hate what you represent, the end of their comfortable illusion. To maintain that illusion, they must make you the problem. It's actually quite brilliant, in a tragic way. Instead of dealing with father's alcoholism, they deal with you. Instead of addressing the dysfunction, they address your disruption of it. You become what I call the designated problem, the one person everyone agrees is causing all the trouble. This allows them to maintain their performance while having someone to blame for why it feels so uncomfortable. Anna had been hearing the family narrative since her exile. It reached her through cousins, through mutual friends, through the grapevine that always found its way back. The story her family told about her. Everything was fine until Anna started creating drama. She's always been difficult, oversensitive, making problems where there are none. If she would just let things be, we could all be happy. She recited it to Watts almost mechanically. She'd heard it so often, it had started to feel true. "Notice what that narrative accomplishes," Watts said. Anna sat quietly, contemplating. Then her eyes widened with understanding. "It completely erases father's alcoholism as the problem and replaces it with me as the problem." Precisely. The disease disappears, and the symptom pointer becomes the disease itself. It's like blaming the fire alarm for the fire. But it works because everyone in the family benefits from this arrangement. Father doesn't have to stop drinking. Mother doesn't have to stop enabling. The siblings don't have to acknowledge their complicity. Everyone gets to keep playing their comfortable roles. All they had to do was agree that you're the real problem. After Anna's exile, her mother told relatives, "We've had such peace since Anna left. She was always stirring up conflict, creating tension. Now we can finally be a normal family." The mechanism inverted reality completely. Anna's absence didn't heal the family. It just removed the one person who kept pointing out the wound. The alcoholism continued. The denial deepened. But now they could pretend everything was fine because the problem was gone. Watts explained this through the lens of Eastern philosophy. In Taoism, we talk about the interplay of opposites. Your family created a false harmony by exiling the element that revealed disharmony. But this isn't true peace. It's enforced unconsciousness. They're like people who've agreed to walk around with their eyes closed, and you're being punished for refusing to bump into walls with them. The family projects their shadow, all the dysfunction they won't acknowledge, onto the awakened one. They say you're angry, but you're expressing their suppressed rage. They say you're divisive, but you're revealing divisions that already exist. They say you're sick, but you're showing symptoms of their collective illness. Anna began recognizing the projections. When her mother wrote letters calling her ungrateful and selfish, Anna understood she's projecting. She's ungrateful for children who won't play along with her denial. She's selfish for prioritizing appearances over her children's well-being. But she can't face that, so she projects it onto me. When her siblings called her the one who tears the family apart, Anna saw clearly the family was already torn apart by alcoholism and denial. I just named the tear that was already there. Watts helped her understand. You've become what we might call the family's sin-eater, the one who carries all the sins they won't acknowledge. It's an ancient role, actually. Many spiritual traditions recognize that someone must bear witness to what others refuse to see. The tragedy is that the witness gets blamed for what they witness. If you've been made into your family's designated problem, comment, "I'm not the disease, I'm the diagnosis." Your recognition helps others see they're not alone in this role. Because understanding the designated problem mechanism reveals something crucial. When the symptom bearer becomes conscious of their function, they can stop carrying what isn't theirs, but the family won't let go easily. The third realization reveals why they escalate their attacks when you try to break free. The third realization, the great disruption. You have until Christmas to decide. Come back and be part of this family, or lose us forever. Anna read her mother's ultimatum aloud in Watts. Study, her hands trembling. 9 months had passed since their first meeting. She looked up at him. I told her, I won't attend family gatherings unless father acknowledges his drinking problem. She called me cruel, said I'm destroying the family. Now she's giving me this deadline. Show up and pretend everything's fine, or I'm permanently exiled. Her voice cracked. How is setting a simple boundary destroying anything? I'm just asking them to acknowledge reality. Watts poured tea calmly. Because your boundary shatters their entire game. You're refusing to play your assigned role, and without you playing it, the whole performance falls apart. You've become what the Zen masters call the stone in the shoe, the irritant that makes it impossible to walk comfortably in illusion. This is the third realization. When the awakened one stops accepting their assigned role, their very existence becomes a threat to the family's elaborate performance. The system must either evolve or eliminate the threat. Most choose elimination. As long as Anna played the scapegoat, the family system was stable, dysfunctional, but stable. Everyone knew their part. Father drinks, mother enables, siblings ignore. Anna gets blamed. It was like a perfectly rehearsed play that had been running for years. But the moment Anna refused her role, the entire production began to collapse. Watts explained, what you're experiencing is what happens when one actor suddenly stops reciting their lines and starts speaking truthfully. The other actors panic. They try to pull you back into the script. When that fails, they try to remove you from the stage entirely. Anna experienced this immediately after setting her boundary. Her mother's calls came daily, each employing a different strategy. Monday, guilt. How can you do this to us after everything we've sacrificed for you? Wednesday, threats. If you don't come to Christmas, you're no longer part of this family. Friday, gaslighting. You're remembering things wrong. Your father's drinking was never that bad. You're creating problems that don't exist. Her siblings joined the campaign. Her brother, why do you have to be so difficult? Can't you just let it go? We're all fine with things as they are. Her sister, you're being selfish. Just show up and pretend like the rest of us do. It's not that hard. Watts pointed out the pattern. Notice how your simple boundary, I won't attend unless we acknowledge the truth, has been transformed into you being difficult, selfish, destructive. The disruption you're causing by speaking truth is being blamed on you rather than on the lie that makes truth disruptive. The extended family received a carefully crafted narrative. Anna is having some kind of breakdown. She's been influenced by some philosopher who's filling her head with Eastern nonsense. She's threatening to ruin Christmas unless we all do what she says. Anna's reasonable boundary became Eastern nonsense and ruining Christmas. The reality disruption was blamed on the disruptor, not on the false reality being disrupted. Watts shared a Zen story. A master once said, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. But what he didn't say is that between before and after, there's a period where you can't chop wood or carry water because you see it's all empty performance. Your family is terrified of that middle space where the performance is seen but hasn't yet been transcended. The ultimatum forced Anna to a critical choice: preserve herself or preserve the system. She wrote back to her mother, "I love you all, but I will not participate in pretending father's alcoholism doesn't exist. I'm not trying to destroy the family. I'm trying to stop the destruction that's already happening. If acknowledging reality means losing you, then I accept that loss." Her mother's response came within hours. "You are no longer my daughter." Anna read it in Watts' study, tears flowing. "I knew this would happen, but it still feels like dying." Watts nodded slowly. "It is a death, the death of the false self that existed to maintain their comfort. But it's also a birth, the birth of who you really are when you're not performing in someone else's play. The Taoists call this return to the uncarved block, becoming what you were before society carved you into a shape that served its purposes. Sometimes the family play cannot be rewritten from within. Sometimes the only way to stop being destroyed by the performance is to leave the theater entirely. And that leaving isn't abandonment, it's awakening. If your truth threatens your family's carefully maintained illusion, comment which tactic they've used: guilt, allies against you, or exile threats. Because recognizing these tactics means you're becoming conscious of the game. The fourth realization reveals how to transform from victim to liberated being. The fourth realization: breaking the wheel. 18 months after her exile, Anna walked into Watts' study with an entirely different presence. Not broken, not bitter, clear, centered, radiating a quiet strength. "I'm not going back," she announced. "Not because I hate them, but because I finally understand something. I can't break the pattern from inside it. The only way to break it is to step outside the entire game and live from a different reality entirely." Watts smiled broadly. "Now you're getting it. This is what the Buddhists call stepping off the wheel of samsara. You stop trying to fix the endless cycle and simply step out of it altogether. This is the fourth realization. The awakened one's power lies not in changing the family system, but in transcending it entirely, living from a different level of consciousness that makes the old patterns impossible to continue." Anna had shifted from trying to heal the family to healing herself so completely that the pattern had nowhere to live in her anymore. She began tracing the dysfunction back through generations. "My father's drinking didn't start with him," she told Watts. "His father drank, his grandfather drank. Each generation told themselves they were different while repeating the exact same pattern. And alongside the alcoholism, another pattern enforced silence about it." Her eyes widened with recognition. "My grandmother was called difficult by her family. My great-aunt was estranged for causing problems. I'm not the first awakened one. I'm the latest in a lineage of women who couldn't stay asleep." Watts leaned forward. "Yes, you're the culmination of all those failed attempts at awakening. Every awakened one before you tried to wake the family and was silenced. You're the first one refusing to be silenced. That's why the pattern can actually end with you, not because you'll fix them, but because you'll live in a way that makes the pattern impossible to continue through you. The pattern breaker doesn't just avoid the family, they actively choose conscious responses that contradict the inherited patterns." Anna noticed all her unconscious programming, her instinct to numb uncomfortable emotions with busyness, her mother's pattern, her tendency to avoid all conflict, her siblings' pattern, her habit of making herself small to keep peace, her own learned survival mechanism. Each time these patterns arose, she paused. Watts had taught her to ask, "Is this response coming from my authentic being, or is it an inherited program? Am I choosing this, or is it choosing me?" She practiced what Watts called conscious living, speaking her truth even when it made others uncomfortable, allowing herself to be seen as difficult when she set boundaries, choosing authenticity over harmony, sitting with difficult emotions instead of numbing them, creating relationships based on truth rather than performance. "Each time I choose consciousness over conditioning," Anna told Watts, "I feel my grandmother's presence, like she's saying, 'Thank you for living what I couldn't.'" Anna began documenting the real story, not the sanitized version her family told outsiders, but the actual truth. Father's alcoholism, mother's enabling, the siblings' complicity, her own scapegoating, all of it, written clearly and without judgment. "This isn't about blame," she explained, "and it's about breaking the spell of denial. When future generations read this, They won't grow up confused like I did. They'll know what actually happened. Watts encouraged this. In Zen, we say, the truth will set you free, but first, it will piss you off. Your documentation ensures the truth survives even if your family continues denying it. The hardest part was accepting that her family might never change. Anna spent months hoping her transformation would catalyze theirs. If I can just live freely enough, maybe they'll see it's possible. Watts gently corrected her. You're still trying to save them, but here's the paradox. You can only save them by not trying to save them. Your job is to live in truth. Whether they join you is their choice, not your responsibility. In Taoism, we call this wu-wei, action through non-action. You transform the system by refusing to push against it, by simply being what you are. Anna went through what Watts called the great grief, mourning the family she'd never had, the mother who might never see truth, the father who might never acknowledge his problem, the siblings who might never wake up from the dream. I'm not giving up on them, she said. I'm giving up the fantasy that my awakening will force theirs. My awakening is for me, and for anyone who chooses to wake up with me. Future children, friends, strangers who recognize themselves in my story. By month 18, she'd completed the pattern-breaking phase. She'd identified every inherited pattern, learned to interrupt them consciously, documented the truth, and released her rescue fantasy. I feel whole in a way I never have, she told Watts. Not because my family accepted me, but because I finally accepted myself. The pattern dies with me. That's my gift to existence. Which inherited pattern are you consciously interrupting? Comment below with the one that's hardest to break. Your recognition helps others identify their own patterns, because breaking the pattern frees you. But the fifth realization reveals how it secretly frees everyone, even when they never acknowledge it. The fifth realization, the liberation paradox. 2 years after beginning her work with Watts, Anna received an unexpected letter. Her younger sister had left the family. After you left, I kept defending mother and father. I kept saying you were wrong, dramatic, selfish. But last month, father got arrested for drunk driving. Again, mother still insisted there was no problem, told everyone the police were overreacting. And suddenly I saw it. Everything you'd said was true. Everything. I don't know if you'll ever forgive us for how we treated you, but I needed you to know. What you did freed me. You showed me it was possible to leave the theater, to stop performing. I'm leaving too. Thank you for having the courage I didn't have. Anna read the letter to Watts, tears streaming. I never imagined. This, Watts said softly, is the liberation paradox. The awakened one who saves themselves gives others permission to save themselves. You don't heal the family by staying and sacrificing yourself on the altar of their dysfunction. You heal the family by leaving and proving there's life outside their prison. This is the fifth realization. When you free yourself from the family's performance, you create an escape route others can follow when they're ready. The mechanism works invisibly. While Anna's family attacked her, condemned her, exiled her, she was quietly creating a template for liberation, not by preaching, not by convincing, but by simply living authentically outside their system. Her sister had watched from inside the family theater. She saw Anna leave, saw the family's vicious attacks, saw Anna not crumble, not return, not apologize. And slowly, a thought formed. What if Anna isn't the crazy one? What if we are? Watts explained, in Zen we have a saying, when one person awakens, the whole world trembles. Your awakening creates ripples in consciousness itself. Your family feels those ripples as threat, but eventually, some may feel them as possibility. 3 years later, Anna's brother called. I'm in AA. I have father's alcoholism. I've been hiding it for years. Your leaving made me look at what I was drinking to avoid. Just wanted you to know. The awakened one who saves themselves often catalyzes transformation in siblings, even when parents remain unchanged. The younger generation sees the escape route and sometimes takes it. This doesn't mean Anna's parents changed. They didn't. Father's drinking worsened. Mother's denial deepened. But their hold on the children loosened, because Anna proved the family's ultimate threat was empty. If you leave, you'll be destroyed. Anna left. Anna thrived. Therefore, the threat lost all power. Watts drew a parallel to Eastern philosophy. In Buddhism, we speak of the bodhisattva, one who achieves liberation and whose very existence shows others the path. You didn't set out to be a bodhisattva, but by saving yourself, you became one. The liberation mechanism operates through several pathways, modeling possibility, showing that leaving is survivable, breaking the spell of silence. Your truth gives others permission to speak theirs, revealing the choice, proving that participation in dysfunction is optional, not mandatory, creating energetic disruption. Your absence permanently destabilizes the false equilibrium. Anna watched all pathways activate. Her sister left the family system. Her brother acknowledged his own alcoholism. Several cousins quietly reached out to share their own struggles with family denial. The family's carefully maintained performance began to crack. I thought leaving was selfish, Anna reflected. I thought staying and trying to fix them was love. But now I see, leaving was the most loving thing I could do. Not just for me, but for all of us. Because I showed them the exit door they couldn't see from inside. Watts nodded. The awakened one's greatest gift to the sleeping isn't their presence, it's their absence. Not because they're abandoning anyone, but because their absence proves the prison door was never locked. They were all free to leave any time. They just needed someone to show them it was possible. The paradox families never understand. The black sheep they exile is often their only hope for healing. Not because the awakened one fixes the system from within, but because their departure shatters the illusion that the system is necessary for survival. Some family members follow the awakened one into freedom. Others stay in denial until death. But the awakened one's job isn't to save everyone, it's to save themselves, and by doing so, make salvation possible for those ready to receive it. You're not the problem the family needs to eliminate, Watts told Anna. You're the key they refuse to turn. And the cosmic joke is that by the time they recognize your value, you may be so free you no longer need their recognition. Anna smiled. I already don't need it, but I'm grateful they gave me no choice but to find freedom. Being the awakened one felt like a curse. Now I see it was the universe pushing me toward liberation. The 5 realizations summarized. First realization, the awakening to the game. Awakened ones have consciousness that sees through family illusions others desperately maintain, making them the family's reality check. Second realization, becoming the designated problem. Families project their collective shadow onto the awakened one to avoid facing actual dysfunction, making the truth teller into the problem. Third realization, the great disruption. When awakened ones stop accepting their role, their authenticity threatens the family's false equilibrium, triggering escalated attempts to restore the performance. Fourth realization, breaking the wheel. Awakened ones who leave the system and refuse to repeat unconscious patterns interrupt generational cycles, ending what couldn't be healed from within. Fifth realization, the liberation paradox. By saving themselves, awakened ones create templates of freedom that give other family members permission to awaken when they're ready. If you're the family's awakened one, you're not the problem. You're the alarm clock in a room full of people pretending to sleep. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's consciousness that refuses to dim itself. Your difficulty isn't dysfunction, it's authenticity that won't conform to lies. But you can't wake them by shaking them harder. You wake them by living so freely that they wonder what you know that they don't. Your exile isn't failure, it's graduation from a game you were never meant to play. Your freedom comes first, then anyone brave enough to follow. Subscribe for more explorations of Eastern philosophy and conscious living. Comment which realization you're currently experiencing. Your recognition helps others name their own awakening. And remember Watts' final teaching. The awakened one's burden is seeing through illusions others insist are real. The awakened one's liberation is realizing those illusions only have the power we give them. And that realization that it's all a game sets you free to play or not play as you choose. You're not broken, you're awake, and your family needs you to stay awake, even if they can't admit it until long after you've gone. Thanks for watching. And remember, you are the universe experiencing itself as a human for a little while. Your family drama is just one small scene in an infinite cosmic play. Once you see that, you're free to write your own script.